Hey, Doug, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Hey, thanks so much, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Doug Bleiler, and this is kind of a crazy moment in my life because I'm having this conversation with you one day after I actually left my current employer. So, and I feel horrible because the guy that put me on this is he was my boss, but he was a great guy and it's a great company, and it's going to be better for everybody, for myself, for the company. I think they're going in a different direction. So I was with a company, Cardiac Science. We're a medical defibrillator company. Been there for about 3 years. That company changed my life. It's been I call that my college education. I learned more from that company and in those 3 years than I've learned probably in the entire, I've been selling for about 12 years now, in that entire time span. It's been an awesome journey. I am currently starting in 1 week with Olympus Corporation. Super excited for that. They're an incredibly respected company within that space, so it's going to be a fun journey.
Is it still in the medical equipment space?
Yeah, it's still in the medical equipment space. Yeah, and just prior before Cardiac Science, I did the Xerox ADP. I came from ADP payroll company, got my feet wet, got punched in the mouth 1,000 times, door knocked. So I feel like you have to do that in order to kind of advance in your. And there's great. I'm not knocking ADP one bit. I mean, if it wasn't for that company, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So it's been a fun journey.
And that's it. I see, ADP pretty much on at least half of the profiles that I check at some point in their life.
Checkbox, you have to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's good because I think it's the new Cutco, right? Because before you used to see the knife guys from door to door, and I think it's a great experience because once you get through that, then you kind of have the resilience to build your career.
Absolutely. You learn so much in those, and it's a door knocking job. I feel like you need a door knocking job, and it adds that professional feel to it. What
was it like going from that to like medical equipment?
Whew. You want to talk about drinking out the fire hose? Man, it was.
We all understand payroll, right?
What's that?
We all understand payroll.
We all understand payroll, and I don't care how you spin it. You can't make payroll sexy. There's just no way about it. We try to do it. I was basically the 15th guy selling the same product for 15 years straight, to the same customer base. You have to be creative, and I think that's what helped me to succeed in that role. And I think that's also what helped me to become visible to the role that I just left.
Yeah. And you're in a tougher territory. You're not in a
larger territory too. Yeah, I have. Now I'm actually going to. So with my new territory, I do have New York City. I have New York City, North Jersey, and Northeast Pennsylvania. Currently, with Cardiac Science, I had all of Pennsylvania and all of Ohio. So a lot of windshield time.
I bet. And who would you call on? Who was the point of contact?
Cardiac Science was interesting because we called on literally everybody. Our call points were all over the place. I mean, I'd have meetings with the Philadelphia Eagles one day, and then I should be putting customers' names out there, but whatever. With a high, where they can't fire me at this point. With a university, and then you're working with a hospital, and then a police department. My network from working in this industry for the last 3 years. It's insane. I know people in foundations too. That was a really cool part. I definitely want to throw them out there. With what we were doing. Are you familiar with the AEDs? Like you see them in the airport, if somebody goes into cardiac arrest. So a lot of families that have lost children to cardiac arrest, we help with the families, and they're raising money to put these AEDs out there, and it's kind of helping their mission, kind of putting them in a better place rather than just mourn. And it's great to see people making something great out of something bad. So it's been awesome just being able to be a part of that.
And what distinguished you from everybody else? I mean, because your manager suggested me for the show, and that's a pretty.
So my manager that suggested me for the show, he's not the one that hired me. They are both phenomenal leaders. Troy Flugner is my manager, my current manager. Him and I clicked right away. He was the guy that hired me, Mark Peters, who is probably going to be the president of this country one day. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. I've learned so much from that guy. Well, to answer your question, what he said separated me from the rest of the field. I'll never forget this. He said, listen, it was between you and somebody else. The other guy had way more experience, but he said, I couldn't drink a beer with that guy. I mean, at the end of the day, you're just real. I couldn't sit down and have a beer with the guy. Yeah. It was cool hearing that because I'm like, man, that just I think what separated me from ADP from a lot of my fellow colleagues was you become kind of robotic in a role like that. I think, I don't know. Maybe that's
I think it comes down to being able to communicate.
Sure.
Right. Because that sitting down with a beer is somebody you want to communicate with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a lot of times, as you become a manager, you want to be able to, if I say 8, you want the other person to hear 8, not 7.5, not 9.5. And that seems so simple, but it isn't, because everyone sees the world through their eyes and what they want. And that blinds them from what's really going on.
Yeah, they stop learning, I think. That's a great point you brought up. No, sorry, go ahead.
And your new company, who will you be selling to there?
So it's women's health. So it's a new division. Olympus currently it's the 5th division within the company, I believe. I think I'm right on that. I hope. 5th division. So they have about roughly 100 reps in each division. This is a newer division. It's about 20 reps right now. So prior to ADP too, I had a couple of my own companies. I had a company when I was at ADP that I ran. Small company. You can get into it if you want. It was a photo booth company. I had it for 3 years. Crazy profitable company. It was insane how much profit margin on that. But anyway, to my point with that, this is more of an entrepreneurial game in their eyes. It's a startup. There isn't really a lot of data to go on. They need people that aren't really afraid. We don't know what's going to happen with this. It's what they did is they separated the urology reps, and it's a separate division within. So we're just specifically selling to gynecologists, and gynecologists are going to really appreciate that. This is directed right at them. They get a lot more face-to-face time with the reps. And I mean, I'm sure you're aware. I mean, Olympus has a great name already in the industry. So I think this is just going to help them out down the road. And they've already been off to a great start. The numbers are great there. So it was something I worked my tail off to make sure I was a part of it.
Now, have you ever sold to doctors before?
Here and there. I mean, with cardiac science, we're selling, it's a class 3 medical device with defibrillators. So we do work with doctors more. It's more so they're recommending us to other people. So people will go to them, and with cardiologists, what device do you recommend? There's only 6 players in that industry. So it's,
And I got to believe that, how do you separate yourself from being a commodity, right? Is it probably looking at 3?
Yeah, right? It's a great question. Yeah. I've always compared it to selling smoke detectors. You don't care about it until you need it. And then when you need it, you're like, So that's, I think, the goal there. Most of the people that buy these devices are never going to use them. Hands down. We don't want them to. I don't want them to use that. Right. When I get a phone call that they're used, my heart drops real quick. And I'm like, was it a favorable outcome?
Did it work?
Cool. Yeah, And we get these phone calls 7 days a week. It doesn't matter. So it's, it could, you can get one of these. I got one last Friday, and it was the best way to go into the weekend. One of our devices was used to save a 12-year-old out of school dance. It's awesome. You can't go into the weekend with a better feeling than that. But before he told me that the kid survived, I was like, crazy.
And, so they're looking at what, a couple of these devices, or do they even investigate? And how do you keep them away from just price?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we don't. We're going through a transition period. The company was just acquired by Zoll Medical, a very large company. Prior to that, we did sell a lot of our business direct. We were the feet on the streets. I was the marketing machine. So I was always known. I got this from the likes of Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs. These guys would wear the same outfit basically every single day. You got to do with your Nike shirt that you're always wearing in the morning.
Well, so it's so people don't think I'm doing something different. It's like consistency. Right.
Yeah, it makes it easier. So anyway, so I would use this. I have this orange shirt. So our device was orange. It's an orange AED. And I walk around like a freaking highlighter with this orange pullover, and everybody knew me as the orange AED guy. So I could call up a place and say, "Hey, this is Doug. I'm following up."
They remember you.
Doug from cardiac science.
They call it peacocking. Yeah, it's something that stands out, right? It
makes them remember you. They got 1,000 business cards, so that was my thing. It was kind of just, and it showed that also that you're passionate about what you're doing.
You bond with the brand. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
And how did you get into a place, or did you have inbound?
We don't have any. Well, it's something they're working on. The time that I was employed, we really don't have inbound. It is a lot of referral-based business, so it really is Troy, who's my current manager. When I rode with him in the field before I got hired, or actually right after I got hired, one of the best pieces of advice I'll ever receive as a sales professional. He said, just make a lot of friends. Troy's always kept it simple. Make a lot of friends. And that is the best advice, because you're, number one, you're not misleading people. You're being yourself, and my network, I spent that first year just working literally around the clock and just building my brand. I am cardiac science. Like, I am the company. Nobody, like, when people get ticked off if something happens with cardiac science, I'm the first one. And I wanted to be like that. But that was, it's a lot of referral-based business, a lot of door knocking. I've visited every single police department in the state of Pennsylvania. And I could get out of the speeding ticket.
Yeah, but it wasn't for business.
Let me tell you something. Pennsylvania State Police was the best deal I ever had in my life.
You knew everybody.
Yep.
Came in handy late at night.
You bet. Absolutely. So yeah, a lot of door knocking, and I love that. That's something that I'm excited with Olympus. I think it's something that I could bring to the table and bring a lot of value. It's something that has helped me tremendously through my sales career. So
you would do drop-bys?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you went in, I got my start that way as well. And
okay.
So I have a memory of it, and it wasn't very pleasant. But how did you kind of break through the person who, just leave your card?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's great question. So I'd always go in with my AED. I always go in with the AED strapped around my shoulder. So this 6'3" guy with a bright orange shirt walks through your door with an AED. Number one, they think
lock the door.
They panic at first because they think they don't know what the heck is going on. I don't know if somebody's in the back collapsed or something, So that's almost an icebreaker in itself. Yeah. And I do believe 110% when you walk through that door. I read a book. It's called Yes Attitude. I forget the guy that even wrote it, but it's so much of that book was just saying, half the battle is your attitude. When you walk through that door, if I'm walking through that door smiling and having the time of my life,
right,
that feeds off on people. So it does. I go in with my AED. They don't know what the heck is going on. And another piece of advice I learned from another one of our top reps, Rob Williams, he always said, speak to the king. Don't worry about anybody below the king. So if I'm going into a police department, go for the chief. People are like, crazy, man. You want to talk to for a large police department, 9 out of 10 times, it's never going to work. But if you go in there with confidence and conviction, so a lot of times it will work more in your favor than you think. And if not, at least I think people respect the fact that you even have the willingness to try to get to that point. So I go and you're also with that product, you're providing a valuable service.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I think you are. I mean, it's a life-saving device, and
And so, what if they said no? What would you do? What was your comeback?
Oh, persistence, baby, all day. Come on.
That's where it starts.
Yes, that's where it gets fun.
You put the handcuffs on you and then on them.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of outside sales. So when I started ADP for the first year, I was inside sales and I hated it, but it was great. It was a way to get into the company until I got into the field. Outside sales, when I don't care if you're 5 feet tall or 7 feet tall, it doesn't matter. If you're in someone's face, it's a lot harder to get them out of their face than just hanging the phone up on them. So when they would say no, it's, well, what are you guys currently using? And for all I know, you guys could have AEDs that are 10 years old. Let me tell you something real quick. If you're a police department, what the number one killer of police officers is? They never think in a million years it's going to be heart disease, but it is. Yeah. So, and that wakes people up.
Yeah, I've seen cops. It's like, heart disease looks pretty close.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I didn't say it. You said it. But hey,
I said it. Send the cards and letters to me.
Yeah, I'm not trying to ruin the speeding tickets I get out of over here with Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And what was the challenge with the job? Was it trying to book your day up? Because when you're out going stop to stop, there's a lot of time gap sometimes.
Sure. So what we would do is so I mentioned before how we sell to almost every single different vertical out there. There's not a vertical we don't really sell into. Set your anchor appointments. So if I have, 2 or 3 meetings and I have two full states and there's no flying in these states you're driving it. So, say I have 2 or 3 meetings set up in the Cincinnati area, I would use the rest of that time to prospect, follow up. Windshield time is all phone calls, but when I was at ADP, I found this app, and there's a lot of them out there, but the one I use, it's a route optimizer. So you set the night before, I'd always set the addresses where I wanted to go. So I'd have my meetings and I'd have the places I wanted to stop. And then I'd also have a sheet where the phone calls I wanted to follow up with or the phone calls I wanted to prospect with. And I'm old school too. We have a Salesforce. I'm not a big fan of Salesforce. I'm 36. I like Post-it notes and I like Excel files. And as long as you're hitting your numbers, they don't really care. I don't know if Olympus is going to be like that, but cardiac science has always been pretty cool as far as that goes. So,
and did you have an inside person or you were on your own?
So we do have inside sales, but we don't work together. I think it's something they're changing, but at the current time, they're selling to kind of the smaller accounts and the leads that like an inbound lead that would come in if it's a small deal. If there's a potential for it to turn into something larger, that's where they reach out to us and get the field involved. But
and let's say the chief came down and he gives you the 5 or 15 minutes or whatever. What was the process? Was it a pitch? Was it a conversation? Was it?
It's just kind of dependent on how he, everybody's different. So, I mean, right away, I think from doing sales for so long, you kind of get a feel for people's personalities and how to pivot. If the guy comes down and he's got his arms crossed and he looks like he's ready to strangle you.
He's got his taser.
Yeah, your time. Like
we both got electronics here, buddy.
Yeah. Your time is limited, so you better make that pitch quick and well worth it. Whereas sometimes these guys are super nice. I mean, they would come down and you could just tell their attitude would pretty much put in my head how much time I even had. Yeah. They came down and they were welcoming. I have about 10, I could have 30 minutes for all I knew. And they would bring in other people. That was the best scenario. The worst scenario is like you said, when they come down and they're having a bad day to begin with, and this sales rep shows up.
They want to yell at someone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, be their punching bag, though. I learned this from Grant Cardone. Agree. So whatever they're saying, we have AEDs, we're good. That's great. That's awesome. That's good for you. Hey, listen, the whole entire reason I'm here, I'm in the area. I cover 2 states. I barely get out this way. I wanted to stop in. We have the newest device on the market. This is literally going to take 5 minutes max of your time. In the middle of it, if you want to kick me out, by all means, feel free to do so. You won't be the first person. You won't be the last person. Yeah. So, and that would kind of, and we have a couple of things. Very, very smart pitch that they created. They talk about the victim, the rescuer, and the program manager. So you kind of put it in their eyes. So if they're the victim of cardiac arrest, nobody ever thinks about it like that. But when you think about it, it makes it a lot more real. And it really, that was a great sales pitch that they created within the company. And it worked. And in a situation like that where my time was limited, I'd go straight to the victim pitch because of that whole fact that I brought up before, where heart disease is the leading cause of death within law enforcement.
And would you pick whether the victim or liability based off of their health or their age?
No.
Some 25-year-old guy comes down who's a triathlete. I'm not worried, right?
Oh, they're the ones that need to be worried, though.
Are they?
Absolutely. Athletes. Yeah, 100%. You see this all the time. Athletes, especially young athletes. There's nothing worse than getting that call when it's a high school athlete that goes down. And a lot of these foundations that I've become very close with, their kids were, most of the time, it was during an athletic event where the event happened.
And what type of price point? You have to give me the exact amount. Was it
1,000,
10,000?
They're between, every AED on the market is priced between $1,000 and $1,600. Okay. So the top of the line ones, we're more of a top of the line one, is around $1,500, so to speak.
And so what happens if it goes well? They go, hey, what happens if it goes well? We like this. It makes sense. But they don't pull out a credit card, do they? Or
so we do. So it's very rare because a lot of these are, with the police department, it's going to be a government deal. It has to be approved unless they have the money in the budget. So if they have money, so this is another great question. Timing is everything in this industry because we follow their budget year. So there are certain times in my tenure at Cardiac Science where I didn't see my house for 3 months because I knew the budgets were coming up and they had to get these things in for budget approval. And if you're not in their face, somebody else is in their face.
Right.
So that's where that whole omnipresence, persistence, and just painting the town orange, as we call it, comes into play. I will be the most annoying thing in your ear, but at least you'll know who the heck I am.
Cool. So it would go through like a purchase order process versus a corporate credit card process.
Yeah, if it was like 1 or 2 devices for like a hodunk police department in the middle of nowhere, a lot of times they could just they could kind of do it on the spot. It might take like a week to get it approved. If it's an opportunity where it's 20 plus devices, this has to go through approval and it has to be budgeted. And if there's leftover money with the budget, or if there is something our sales process could be very lengthy too. I still have deals that I started from over 2 years ago and they're not dead. That's the crazy thing.
Right. Well,
Like you
especially when you're dealing with
bodies.
local, state, and local government.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great place to be. Great people to be friends with, though, too, because it
Right,
usually
because they don't change jobs, right? They're there forever,
they're there
and
forever, and they have to spend that money. If they don't spend that
right,
money,
they lose it.
they lose it, and then the next year's budget is less because of that.
Yeah. And what do you think some of the big epiphanies in your career were? The things that really where you went from I'm good to I now get it. Was it being able to bond with people, being able to connect with your brand, just hustle and grinding?
You know what? It's crazy. I read a quote the other day, and I forget word for word what it said, but it was something along the lines of, "You need something catastrophic in your life to happen to be able to achieve greatness." Something along those lines. I'm probably completely murdering that quote, but anyway, you get my point. I had as silly as it may sound, horrible breakup, and it kind of like knocked me off my feet. We were living together. I was actually homeless for a couple of months before I started cardiac science. I was living in a hotel. I wasn't poor, believe me. I was homeless with 2 cars, but I was trying in a transition period, but it was like literally the worst time of my life. But I don't think without that happening, I mean, that pushed me to go and try to get a new career and get out of the company I was working with and just grind. I mean, I wasn't focused on finding another.
There we go. It's back.
Okay. All right.
So you were kind of motivated through rejection.
Yeah, just, I don't know, lit a fire inside of me. It was crazy. I mean, I was at the lowest point of my life, and now I feel like I'm at that. But the one thing with that, though, is I always remember when things are going great, something else is about to happen, and always be prepared for it. And things, I mean, case in point, 2 weeks ago, I was at the high of my life. I got the offer letter from Olympus. I was in the back of my mind, I said, something bad is going to happen.
Oh, come on.
And sure enough, Brian, I kid you not, I flooded my entire house. I drove through the sprinkler pipe, trying to hang a clock on my wall, flooded the entire house. I had 20 firefighters in my living room, but I was happy. I was like, it happened. This is it. Yeah. It burnt down. My dog's still alive. My girlfriend wasn't here. It was actually amazing. It did a crap load of damage, but it could have been and it got out. It's done. That was the bad thing that was coming around. Now it's back up the hill again.
And how do you keep your enthusiasm and your energy up? What do you focus on? Do you have a daily routine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Best book. I can't say the best, but one of the best books. The Miracle Morning. I was never a morning person. It drove me crazy, probably from all the years I bartended. I'm just
that'll kill you.
You know what I mean?
Part of the morning. Yeah,
it's exactly. And I've always, I'm turning myself into a morning person and trying not to be a night owl. But yeah, it's 100% routine. Actually, probably right here. This is a credit to an awesome book. This thing's awesome. So I journal every day, but I follow the routine to a T for the Miracle Morning. To start early, you're getting a head start on everybody else. And if you think about the hours that you can grab from the morning, I get my workout done. I read. Reading's great, and I don't just read business books. I got to a point where I've practically read almost every single business book you could read. So I read a lot of books now in psychology. I read a lot of books on physical health. Just to make yourself more well-rounded, But yeah, it's 100% a routine. And I take 1 day break on Sunday. So Sunday is my day to catch up on sleep and be a real human.
Your cheat day, huh?
Yeah, right? You need one of those. You're going to go nuts if you don't. You need
you can't. You burn out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Eventually.
Yeah.
And what would you have done differently in your career? Were there a lot of time gaps or, career direction or mindset things that you would have done differently?
If I could do it all over again, I think I would have paid a little bit more attention in school, when I was younger. I say
you
this
and me both.
Yeah, you think back and you're like, man, you think it's so tough back then, and it's the best time of your life. You have no responsibility, even though you think you have all this responsibility. It's a joke. You don't. That is your time to be a sponge and absorb all that awesome information. I'm not saying go to college. Believe me, I'm one of the people I'll stand here unless you are going in the field of medicine or science, take a step back. But while you have those 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old years, just absorb as much information as you possibly can, because you're not going to get that opportunity again.
Yeah, and that's it. Because if you look at people who become great in their career, there's seeds that are planted real early.
Yeah.
Whether it's, art, comedy, sales, engineering, Tiger Woods, he's like 3 years old. He's hitting it around. All these musicians that just bang on the piano or on drums or on pots and
Yeah.
pans, they start building these, patterns in their mind super early, because that adds another 10 years to their mental
Absolutely.
development of it.
Yeah.
And
It's incredible when you think about it like that.
where would you like to take your career?
I don't really know. I mean, I'm loving what I'm doing right now. I love where I'm at. I'm so excited to start this new journey. It's super exciting to me. It was a heck of an interview process. There's so many unknowns at this point. It's a completely new area of work to learn something new in. Obviously, I never studied women's health, so it's
No? Only as an amateur.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I've learned so much already. Yeah. Took me a second there. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So I would like to get into management though. I've always I look at sales as an art. I mean, there's so many elements and so many layers of it. I love your morning videos. They're the best because it's everything that you say in those. Are like, I'm so guilty of so many things that you say in there so many times. I'm just like, it's the truth though. But I mean, it makes you who you are. It's just, I don't know. I'd like to at some point get into management. My goal is when I'm 50 years old, I want to have enough in real estate that I can just kind of put it all away and do what I want to do. Have enough passive income. All of my focus right now is just investing, getting money comes in, money goes back out. Whether it's in stocks, real estate, just something to make more money on. Yeah. And Olympus is, this is why I keep trying to achieve these different levels in my career as a sales professional, because with each layer, it just helps that dream become more real. And also now too, it gives me the opportunity, one of the most important things is find your why. Mark Peters, the guy that hired me at Cardiac Science, told me from day one. And he was the first person to ever really kind of drill that into me. And it took me about a year to figure it out at Cardiac Science. But now that I'm past that stage in my life with Cardiac Science, now I can get back to those foundations. It's something that's going to be important to me. It's more than just trying to achieve my own personal freedom. It's about helping these people that are working tirelessly for nothing to just help them fulfill their mission in life. So it's cool. I'm looking forward
and you
to
find that why is motivating you, keeps you focused.
Absolutely, yeah.
Gets you up. Like, what time do you get up now?
I get up at 5.
Yeah, so that's for early morning. But because it forces
awesome.
you on the other end also, because you start getting tired around 8 or 9, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what's really helping with this whole. I mean, I'm still about 10 o'clock, 10:30. One of the things I love about that book, he says, it's so true. He says your last thought at the end of the day, or before you go to sleep, is usually your first thought when you wake up. And if you have this thought, you ever read that book? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so to those, I don't know if this is going to be posted or not, but those that haven't read it, it's it's the truth. When you wake up and the last thought you have before you went to sleep was, man, I'm only getting 4 hours of sleep. I'm going to be dead tomorrow. You're going to wake up and 100% you were going to feel that you got run over by a freight train. But if you go to sleep and if you have 4 hours and you're telling yourself, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this energy, I'm going to be just bouncing off the walls.
Well, I think people, because this year I kind of had an epiphany that you really have to train your subconscious mind. Too many of us, we live in our conscious mind and we think, oh, I know this. It's not enough to know it. It's enough to ingrain it the way you train a muscle. It's every day about what's your why, what are you passionate about, why are you doing this, what motivates you, how to keep your emotions even keeled, how to keep your energy level high, how to react to the rejection you're going to have.
Absolutely.
Right? Because that pipe bursting could have devastated you, for a couple of weeks emotionally.
Yeah, but it's all about mindset. Well, you hit the nail on the head. It's like rebuilding a muscle. What do they say? It takes 3 months to form a habit. I'm probably completely wrong on that, but something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm up to that. And the thing is, it's like you got to keep doing it, because if you work out, I can't run for 3 months and then stop.
Yeah,
right? You got to do it, a couple times a week, at least, to maintain it. And I think our brains are the same way. And I think we kind of slough it off thinking I just know it. And it's like, It's not enough. I know how to run, but that it's not going to keep me in shape.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, it's building to the point where it just becomes, it's like breathing air. You know, it's so routine that you don't even think about it.
Yeah. And what would you say is your superpower as a sales rep? If there was one thing that kind of differentiates you from the rest, the B players?
I mean, if I had to drill down on one thing, and I'm not just saying this myself, this is what I've heard from other people. It's the attitude and the positivity. People love it, and I personally don't even think I'm that positive sometimes. People are like, I don't know where the heck you get it from, man. Like, your house was flooded 2 weeks ago, and you were clapping your hands about it. It's all about mindset. I don't know. I had this. It could always be worse, and there's another probably my favorite quote of all time. I don't even know who even said it. The problem is always the opportunity. Probably a Grant Cardone quote. But it's so true, though. And I always think, I mean, no matter what happens, if I get rejected from a door knock. Well,
yeah, and I think what I got when you brought up the smiling, that is the classic icebreaker. Because what it does subconsciously to the other person means you're friendly.
Yeah.
Right? And it almost brings up these emotions of, I must know this person, because they're smiling at me.
Good point.
Or they think something positive about me.
Yep.
And I've used it my whole life. Even when you go into a contentious meeting, you just go in with a big smile and people are like,
always smiling.
What's he doing?
It doesn't matter if it's 40 degrees and you can see your breath when you're doing those morning videos. My man, you are always smiling.
That's it. And even when I'm super sarcastic, I don't offend people because I'm so gregarious about it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like belittling the point. But hey, there's been a great conversation. Where can people go to follow you?
So I'd say go to my Instagram, DBLIL583, or you can just look me up on Facebook, Doug Bleiler, BLILER, or feel free to connect on LinkedIn. I mean, I'd probably use LinkedIn more than I even use Facebook right now, which probably should start using that free social media platform a little bit more. But yeah, I'd love to connect with anybody, answer any questions. I'm always trying to make more friends and just, keep doing what we're doing here.